Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to Sitare TV. This is Lakshmi Iyer at TiEcon 2024. We are wrapping up the conference at the Santa Clara Convention Center. And we have here with us Sidharth Shankar. He has an interesting company, Aesop's Fables, with an AI instead of the AE. I remember reading that book as a child.
Absolutely.
Tell us something more.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lakshmi. Such a pleasure to talk to you. We have a problem where like children are just not reading as much as they used to before. Every parent is concerned about reading. And so what we do is we help children create their own stories and read them so that they feel a sense of ownership on the stories that they've created. They are themes that they like, such as dinosaurs or space or farms or whatever the child is into. And then if the parent wants the child to learn a value of honesty or kindness or courage, you pick the theme, dinosaurs, pick the value, kindness, and a story just gets created for you. And the child is the central character in that story. So it'll be a story about the very child that essentially created that tale. And I think what makes this even better is in the middle of the story, there are a bunch of decisions that the child has to make that change the outcome of the story itself. And so the child has a sense of agency and purpose while they actually make these stories. And they spend more time reading. The parent gets a kind of a report at the end of the week on how many hours the child spent reading, what new words they have learned. And usually schools have these logs that you have to present on how long your child is spending reading, and you can do that as well. So that's the idea itself.
Wow, that's amazing. So you said the child is the central character. Can you also build something totally different without the child as the central character? Like if I just want to build a story about a fairy princess, can I do that?
Absolutely. What I mean by that is you can create your own characters inside the thing, right? So we have a bunch of avatars, and we have a bunch. You can create a name for the character, you can the age of the character, and then the picture that you want associated with that character, and so that becomes the story. So if you let's say you have somebody, you don't want to write about your own child, you want to let's say talk about your grandmother, and you can have the grandmother in the story itself as like an old lady, age 70, and then the story is about her and what she's doing. The reason why the age is important is it tells us a little bit about the reading level, and so if it's a 5-year-old making the story, we want to make sure that the story is appropriate to a 5-year-old reader. And if it's an 8-year-old making the story, then it'll be slightly different and more complex in terms of the narrative itself.
Can you disseminate a story? For example, a child creates a story during her summer break. Can she share it with other schools, other students in her class?
Absolutely. That's I think the whole point is we want children at the end of the day we want children to have joy in reading. And I think there's nothing that makes you more happy than sharing something that you found joy with. I think the act of sharing the story, and in fact we go one level further, your friend can actually continue the story and make different choices than the ones you made. So they might not necessarily agree with the choices you made in the different parts of the story. So they can explore and experiment with the same story, but through a different pathway. And so you both can collaborate and figure out, hey, I did that, you did that other thing, what happens at the end. And so we really wanted to make a very social and connected experience for children that makes reading something that they enjoy, not a drudgery that they have to do because parents and teachers are telling them to do it.
Wow. What about the individual copyright on these stories? And I can imagine if somebody, two students get into a fight about, okay, I came up with this idea, and then you twisted it, you made it something else, but it was my idea. And what if somebody wants to monetize the story in the future?
Absolutely. Very, very good question. So all the stories currently are generated using AI. And so we've essentially trained and fine-tuned our model to be very specific to storytelling, and that's literally our secret sauce. But once you're a user on the platform and you become a paying user, you essentially have the copyright for the stories that you've generated using our tool. And at that stage, you want to share it with others, that becomes your story. But if the minute you go back and change choices, right, every time you take actions in the story, that's when you're now creating a fork in the road, and so the IP is now diverging from what you had. So let's say if you made XYZ choices in your story, that copyright would be yours. But if I came in, took the starting point, but made a different set of choices, I now own the copyright for that story that I made, which kind of branched from the original story that you had created. So that's how.
Wow. This AI is still in its very nascent early stages. I can see a lot of evolution of intellectual copyright, and things related to creativity are much more complex. Do you envision this being localized here in the US, or are you looking to expand internationally because the copyright laws and all that differ from country to country?
Yeah, no, there's going to be complexity around copyright for sure. I think our current focus is the US market. We want to make sure that we get one market right, understand the needs better. Also, like at this point, we are only English language. We want to expand into other languages as well. There's so many, I think, local myths and traditions in different parts of the world that you can then tap into. There's the African traditions, the South American tradition, the Native American, the Asian. There's so much of a tapestry of cultures around the world that we could possibly tap into. But for now, we're just focused on getting it right in English in the US. And after that, once we feel like we have a very good handle on the value it's adding, we will expand to other languages and other nations in the world as well.
So you must be using a variety of AI engines, like to generate the images and even the text and all that?
Right, absolutely. So it's mostly text-based because the focus is on reading. We resisted the temptation to go down the path of making it almost like a comic book, because then in that case it becomes more entertainment than education. So for now it is mostly text with a few images that are smattered there so that the child feels like it's engaging. But we do have plans in the future as AI models get better to do more different types of media as well to make the stories more engaging and compelling. For instance, you can even have the story being read out in somebody's voice. Like, for example, a father that's traveling very frequently, if you just spend 15 minutes giving us samples of voice, we can even read out the story in the dad's voice when the father is not around, if the child needs to be put to sleep and only sleeps to the father's voice, for instance. So we can do all those kinds of things eventually. Those are all, I would say, phase 2, phase 3. For now, we're just sticking to text.
Wow, that's really fascinating. What are your thoughts on human creativity getting diminished or being put to the backdrop of AI and its creative abilities?
It's a very fascinating question. I think the jury's still out there. But I think I would say a technology positivist in the sense that I always see technology as a positive force for good. If you look back in time and you think about what happened when the camera was first invented, a lot of people prophesized that artists would be out of a job because you didn't need someone to come in and draw a portrait of you because someone could now take a picture with a camera. We didn't see that happen. We just saw painters and artists evolve and do other things that the camera could not do. So I think it's the same thing that's going to happen with AI. It's going to democratize a lot of, I would say, core capabilities that today need, let's say, certain levels of skills. But humans have this amazing ability to get used to new technology and then push the boundaries of what's now possible with this new tool that we've invented. And I'm very, very bullish on like what the future holds. I think there's a future where you and I will consume very, very different media, even though we're all sitting in the same room and starting with the same book. If you push this idea further, imagine a world where Harry Potter has a completely different script depending on who's reading it. Right? So the characters, the choices they make, every single piece of media that we consume, whether it is books, music, movies, television, will just be customized to every single user. I think that day is not too far away, and I'm very excited for that to happen.
Wow, that's super fascinating. Where are you in your startup journey? Is this something that has already launched the product and is it in beta?
Yeah, so we have a beta on at the moment. I'm just trying to get early feedback from my core customers who are between the ages of 8 and 11. And I think TiE has been amazing in that sense to just like meet up with a bunch of folks and get feedback from parents. In fact, just yesterday I met up with another entrepreneur who was so excited about this. She took it home. She shared the app with her 2 children, even took a video of their reactions to it and sent it to me last night at 10 p.m. all after meeting me at TiE at 6 p.m. in the evening. So I just feel the level of energy and the fact that entrepreneurs are here helping each other is something quite amazing. I'm so glad I made it. There was a time when I was thinking, oh, should I go, shouldn't go? From now on, I think I'm going to be a regular at TiE every year going forward. So very excited about that.
Are you based here in the Bay Area?
Indeed, I'm based in Redwood City.
Thank you so much, Sidharth. It's such a pleasure talking to you. And your product is absolutely fascinating. Even though I'm far from the 8 to 11-year-old age group, I would love to try out your product.
That's so wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your help.
Thank you and all the best.